For the thousands of people who were given contaminated blood in the 1970s and 80s, life at that moment changed forever. Many are no longer here, but for those who are, the effect it's had on their lives is ever present.
I was infected in 1987 after the birth of my first child.
Tom and I were both in our mid-30s to mid-40s with a growing family.
And I had to go home to my mother and sit down with Graham and tell him at 15 that he got HIV.
I was infected in 1974, aged 11. I had multiple blood transfusions, 19 of them.
In 1985, Alan Burgess from Ipswich found out in a letter that he was infected with HIV and Hepatitis C. He'd been given contaminated blood products to treat his haemophilia. He was told he had just months to live.
I was ill quite often. I just wondering when my time was going to be. I'd lost my business and then I lost my mind. I ended up being admitted to a psychiatric hospital for 5 weeks. The stigma at the time was absolutely horrendous. There was the AIDS jokes flying around. There was, you felt as if you needed a bell in your hand and shout unclean. If I ever went into hospital, which quite frequently, they'd be gowned up like astronauts. It was awful. Even by the health service, you were made to feel very, very unclean.
Alan has campaigned for more than 3 decades for a full investigation into what happened in the 1970s and 80s. Since then, at least 2,400 people have died. He welcomes the start of today's inquiry and is determined to see it through.
This won't finish with me dying. It will carry on. I mean, I'm hoping I'll still be alive at the end of the inquiry. I don't know how long it's going to take. But yeah, I want to see justice done. I really do. And it's about time we had justice.
And the treatment, says Alan, has not just affected him, but his whole family.
Not only has it affected my mum and dad, it's then affected me and forever. You know, my life will never be the same. Suffered with depression since I was about 14, haven't I? Yeah, self-harmed and tried to commit suicide when I was about 19, all related to this. I just couldn't handle life anymore.
The government says the inquiry is a priority and that it's extremely important for those who have suffered so terribly to get the answers they have spent decades waiting for.
A number of these victims have lived with these issues for 30 or 40 years. It's gone through generations. This is an opportunity for the present generation to pay respect to the last generation and fulfill an obligation to the next generation. That's how they see it. It's payment of a debt and fulfillment of an obligation, and they are quite determined to see it through.
The inquiry is expected to last for at least 2 years. Emily Knight, ITV News.